Greetings everyone, we are the group 1 and we are here to discuss our assigned topic about creating users and groups. In this topic, our main objectives is to define the user and group, explain the use of local users and groups tool in the system's tools option to create and manage user accounts. Describe the various accounts related properties of a user and present different options that are available to define a user's network environment. Hello again everyone. I am Kate Nicole Q. Magpulong and I'm going to discuss first about the user and group. So what is a user? A user is objects to represent the employees, customers, or students in your environment. A group is just a collection of things. Groups are used most frequently in a security context. You set up a group of users and apply certain permissions or rights to that group.
Go to Active Directory user and computers. So here we can see the users or uh, we can create. So here I already created an object, and then we basically need to install create a new user, which is Su, then Smith last name. Then here's a user logon name. We we basically name it as Smith, then click next, and then sa password basically wala na akong check si use must change password, and you can do also check this if you want um, or not. Then here kaning duha ka book kaning password never change and actually yes nara sa inyo. Then click next. Then here we can see the user logon name. So next, here we have the three users. Then we can add it in our group, which is create na kog organizational unit ganiha. And then in here we can create a group. Then here group name, set up a group name which is HR dash groups. So our groups are the groups. Then click OK, and here we can double click it. Then here we go to members, then click add, and then we search the users that we add earlier, which is itong tulo ka buok. Then we add this Smith, check name, and here we can see the logo name. Then I click OK, so we add it. And then the next one will be Kent Vince, and then here we can see you can click OK, so we added. Then the last one will be Chris, so si Chris. Then click check name, then here you can see, then click OK. Then here we add the users in our group, bali group na to nga, or URI organizational unit. And then here we can apply it, and then here done. So that's basically it, the basic of creating users and groups.
There are different types of user accounts can be created, and these are the local user accounts that is stored on local computer and the domain user accounts stored in Active Directory. So let us define what is local user accounts. Local user accounts are used to control access to the computer on which you are working. They are created on Windows Server 2003 by using the local users and groups. So from the word local itself, local accounts are stored locally on the device. These accounts can be assigned rights and permissions on a particular device, but on that device only. Local user accounts are security principles. that are used to secure and manage access the resources on a device for services or users. And the next account we're going to define is domain accounts. So these are created in Active Directory and are considerably different from local user accounts. Rather than storing information on the local machine, account information is stored in the directory and replicated to other DCs. So, when you log in as a domain user, the computer asks the controller what privileges are assigned to you. So, in these two accounts, what are their differences? So local accounts are stored on computers and only apply to the security of those machines, while domain accounts are stored in Active Directory, and security settings for the account can apply to accessing resources and services across the network. And the next topic that I will be discussing is all about User Manager in Windows NT. So, who can create users accounts? So, there are 3 user accounts that can create, and these are the administrators, domain administrators, and account operators. So, let me define you what are these 3 user accounts. So the administrator account gives the user complete access or full control permissions of the files, directories, services, and other resources that are that local server that are on that local server. And domain administrators manages the replication of directory information within the Active Directory and makes any enterprise level changes to the Active Directory, such as schema modifications and trust relationships. But before we proceed to the last user account, what is their differences? So, their differences is that administrator group have full permission on all domain controllers in the domain. By default, domain admins group is members of local administrators group of each member's machine in the domain. It's also members of administrators group. So, domain admins group has more permissions there than administrators group. And the last one is account operators. The account operators grants limited account creation privileges to a user. Members of this group can create and modify most types of accounts, including accounts for users, local groups, and global groups. User Manager. So User Manager is the GUI model that enables user management. So what is a user management? It is an organizational function that enables users to access and control the digital assets such as application, devices, networks, and cloud services. So what is its activation? Through the Start menu, through command level activation by running the command User Manager from an already created shortcut. So let's see the activating the User Manager demonstration. Domain details. So as you can see in this presentation, you can see the 3 countries, which is the which are the United States, Canada, and Mexico. And what is the meaning of NAFTA? It is the North American Free Trade Agreement signed by the Canada, Mexico, and United States. So a domain name refers to your website address. This is what user type in a browser's search bar to directly access your website. A domain name is unique and cannot be shared between different sites. For instance, the domain name for Google is google.com. Users in the domain. You can see the administrator, California, Texas, and Nevada. The administrator account can be used to create local users and other resources that are on that local server. So for instance, the administrator has 3 users represented by the California, Texas, and Nevada. Adding a user. Adding a user steps. These are the first one is user manager, user, new user, create password, description, full name, and username. Password options. So these are the password options. User must change password. User cannot change password. Password never expires. So the user must change, for instance, this is an instance, the user must change password at next logon setting. Typically, an administrator would do this if they are working with an end user directly during a password reset, because this is for security reasons. To avoid this being the case, an administrator can set a temporary password with this setting. There are notes on the user. The first one is a user created becomes a member of the built-in user group. So what is built-in user group? It is a group that includes all users whose identities were authenticated when they are logged on. And the next one is additional user account properties can be set at the time of creation of the accounts, later through the user properties feature.
Setting additional user account properties. Objectives: reaching user properties menu, user optional properties, assignment to the group, profiles, hours restriction, workstation access restriction, account properties, dial-in properties, demonstration of properties configuration. Reaching properties menu. The menu can be reached through the User Manager domain window. Select user, double click. Select user and select properties from user option from top. This is a group demonstration. And this is Canada. Canada is to be assigned to administration, server operation, etc. And as a default, it is assigned by a user. User optional properties. Groups, profile, hours, logon to, account, and dial in. Groups enables the user to be assigned to a group. The user acquires the group privileges. Enable a user to be removed from a group. Profile. User path, it has assigned path, local script name, local path to home directory, also environment profile to discuss a little bit later in next reporter. Hours. restrict the user to a fixed time period for using the network. For demonstration, user Canada is restricted to log on to the network from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. It is Monday to Friday. Log on to. It restricts the user to a predefined number of workstations on the network. The network can be accessed only from this workstation. Demonstration of logon 2. It has as others Mexico, California, and all connected from Canada. Accounts. Account time limit. Never expire or specify expiry date. Account type. Global for possible entry into other domains. Local for restriction to local resources. For demonstration, user Canada's account will never expire. And the last one is dial in. It allows the user to dial in access to the network. It provides callback for security verification. For purposes of demonstration, user Canada will be given a dial in access privileges. Callback security will not be imposed. That's how dial in works. This is the example of dial in setup. Canada, Odin, US, California, and Mexico. Adding multiple users. The objectives are copy users account details, overview, case example and demonstration, changing the account properties of multiple users, operation on multiple users. Copying account details. It can be copied from an existing user while creating a new user. Properties can be modified, customized to new user properties. And this is the example of case example of copying user account details. You can copy the account details to new users Nevada to Canada. And this is below. This is how you can modify Nevada if it is requirement to the system. Copying user account details demonstration. Changing the account properties of multiple user. Multiple user can be chosen for account property modification. For example, enforcing the same logon time restricted on the group of users. And this is the case example of operation on multiple users. On the top is the administration. Administration can operate uh, Texas and Nevada. Addition to the administration group and then deleting from administration group. It can decide whenever it adds or it deletes.
Account policy. The objectives are account policy for all users in the domain, password protection, account lockout protection, other protection, and the account policy setting demonstration.
There are four password protection: the maximum password age, the maximum password length, the minimum password age, and the password uniqueness. There are three user account policy for all users in the domain: the password component, the password, and the account lockout. For major components, it is a password related, account lockout related. For the password, security against password guessing. For the last one is the account lockout that thwart an authorized attempt to access the network. Password protection. It is the maximum password age, determines the period of time that password can be used before the system requires the user to change it. Maximum password length. It is a limitation in the Windows GUI. The maximum length of a human user could actually type to log into Windows is 127 characters. Minimum password age. It is a period of times that a password must be used before the user can change it. You can set a value between 1 and 998 days. Password uniqueness. Minimum of 8 characters using a mix of uppercase and lowercase, letter, number, and special characters. Password length is typically a more important factor for security than a password complicity.
User environment, user profiles. So user profile define the network environment for the user. It is a powerful means of customizing a user's access to the network, such as program groups, network devices, access to multi-user application, and etc. So the advantages of user profiles is when the user logs onto a computer, the system uses the same settings that were in use when the user last logged off. When sharing a computer with other users, each user receives their customized desktop after logging on. And settings in the user profile are unique to each user, so the settings cannot be accessed by other users, but changes made to one user's profile do not affect other users or other profiles. So these are the types of user profiles: local profiles and the roaming or network profiles. So, sulod sa roaming profiles na ay personal user profiles and mandatory user profiles. Local profiles offer users the advantage of accessing their profile. Even if the computer isn't connected to the network, user can sync when they connect but can work separate from the network. Additionally, local storage means there is no latency for retrieving profile settings, making for a quick and easy login and log off process. So the main disadvantages are that settings and documents are only available on one computer and that users then back up their computers frequently and can easily lose their data if the drive fails. So one of the benefits of roaming profiles is that users don't have to worry about creating separate profiles for every computer they use. Plus, automatic data syncing reduces the likelihood that users will lose data due to the computer drive failure. So the main disadvantage of roaming profiles is network latency because data must be downloaded at login and save to the server during log off. So the login and log off process can take a while. So the networked profile, also known as the roaming profile, is the one applies to a user irrespective of the workstation on which one of the user enters log on to the network. So there are two types of network profiles or the roaming profiles. So the first one is the personal user profiles and the mandatory user profiles. When we say personal user profiles is the one we created and managed, and that profile is only the user. While the mandatory user, the one who created and managed and that user profiles, is the network administrator. Only the administrator can make changes in that profiles. If the users make changes in that profiles, but it is not permitted because only administrator can make changes in that profiles. So at the end of the network session, it can be lost. User environment logon script. So what is logon script? It is a file that you assign to a user account and that runs automatically when a user logs on. With a logon script, you can map drive letters to network resources. So the logon script usage it is better suited for other network environments. For network profiles are preferred that would achieve the same effect with less programming.
So, user rights. User rights can be defined independently. So, in general, users are assigned to groups with predefined user rights. Then, specifying a user right. So, the general procedures. So, assign the user to a built-in groups, customize if required to suit the application requirements of the user. And then, security concern must also be enforced. Sample rights of built-in accounts. So add workstation to the main, assign user rights, allow and disallowing sharing of printers, and then allow and disallow sharing of directory. And that's it.